Welcome to MINDSHOCK. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, and you are listening to the Red Pill Showdown, Michael Knowles vs. Pearl Davis, Part 4, the logical analysis that has revealed and exposed Michael Knowles for the clueless charlatan he is, doing the devil's work here, preaching the opposite of what the Bible says, and seemingly happy about it, laughing at the misery of men who had to go through family court and divorces, pretending and hallucinating that none of them could have been innocent in any of it, in any capacity. I mean, just the pure goofery on display here. The goofery and deceit from Michael Knowles. I don't know if he can ever recover from this. But we shall see as we continue to examine in typical MINDSHOCK fashion, with logic and reason at the forefront, his bootlicking arguments here, praising subservience to the state in direct violation of the Bible he claims to follow. As always, if you find the MINDSHOCK podcast interesting and informative, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Help support logic and reason returning to a world where it is quickly going extinct. You can also be a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. So let's dive right in here, picking up where we left off. If you haven't checked out the first 3 parts, make sure you check them out. We still have a little ways to go here. Hopefully we can complete the analysis of this pure annihilation of Michael Knowles by Pearl Davis.
So people can change their lives. And I think that's something you're kind of downplaying here.
No, I'm not downplaying that people can change their lives. What I'm downplaying is that not downplaying. What I'm saying is that it's not.
He's really trying to strawman and gaslight her really hard. I mean, I don't know if we've ever seen somebody this dishonest, this openly dishonest and bad faith as Michael Knowles is here.
Really wise for men to date former sex workers, regardless of what they say.
Why not? Why not? I'm not saying it's ideal, but why not?
Because
wow. Again, Michael Knowles just ignoring the Bible, ignoring pure common sense. I mean, just being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. Simply doing the devil's work here.
I think the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior.
So then you are sort of denying that people can change.
How is a prediction a denial? It's a balance of probabilities. It's like saying, are you denying that someone can win the lottery? Are you in denial? Are you denying? I mean, the level of goofery on display here from Michael Knowles. I mean, this is just astounding. He keeps dropping the floor out on his own goofery. You know, it'd be crazy if him and Craig of Fight the Flat Earth, if they did a debate on something together. I mean, wow. The level of goofery. I don't know if the universe might implode with that much goofery in the same place at the same time.
No, I'm not denying that people can change. I would say most people don't change. In general. Like, I wouldn't say women go date a criminal.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend.
I wouldn't. You know, there might be the exception, but it doesn't make the rule.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, growing up in New York, I know some reformed criminals.
So, anecdotal logical fallacy. I mean, he's really running the gauntlet on fallacies here. I really think I should have used the logical analysis system, although he might have broken it. I mean, at this point, we might have to do it. We might have to. We really might have to. I mean, this guy is really something else. I mean, it's all bad faith. So, you know, I don't believe that this man has a legitimate mental disability. Maybe he does, But I don't know if somebody can fake being this intelligent in so many other areas. I just don't know if it can be done. Unless he has a split personality and one of them is a super genius and one of them is mentally disabled, and the mentally disabled one showed up for this. But even still, I mean, the vocabulary's too good. The deceitful tactics are just too obvious and heavy-handed.
Who are actually reformed, who are,
Yeah, but the difference is criminals actually have consequences.
So again, it's like he's recommending playing the lottery. I mean, there's a chance. There's a chance. Someone brought this up in the chat on the previous analysis that, there were cases of people who survived jumping out of a plane when their parachute didn't open. So there's a chance. I mean, maybe Michael Knowles is going to recommend it simply because there were some survivors. I mean, just the level of pure gophery on display here.
This is where women tend to not have consequences for their decisions.
You don't think the women, I think modern women face a lot of consequences. They don't want to admit it.
No. We're bailed out of every bad.
Wait, so if they have the option of not admitting it, how did they face it? Like, are there people in prison saying, no, I'm not actually in prison right now? I mean, wow, he just keeps dropping the floor out on his gophery. I mean, if you have the option of denying consequences, then what consequences have you faced? Wow. I mean, wow. I mean, we can go to pure stats on the, female privilege within even the justice system. Women were 58% less likely to be sentenced to prison. This is the journalist resource. Various different studies here, from initial appearance to sentencing. Do female defendants experience disparate treatment? This is the Journal of Criminal Justice, Volume 43, Issue 5. So, I mean, just the level of goofer here, just across the board. 46% less likely to be even held in jail before trial. Their bonds 54% lower than men. 58% less likely to be sentenced. And these are all for all the same crimes. So, I mean, just the level of gophery on display here from Michael Knowles. I mean, is it possible to be goofier than Michael Knowles is being? I mean, that's the real question now. Is it possible to put forth dumber points than Knowles has? I can't think of any, actually. I mean, I really can't think. Maybe there are. I'm not saying there aren't. It's just he seems to have dropped the floor out so many times on the goofery. I mean, he'll probably surprise us. We still have a ways to go here. I mean, let's see if he continues to drop the floor out on his own goofery.
Decision we make.
I don't think so, because you can't get bailed out of reality. So, I agree,
The reality of what? Not even sentenced to prison for the same crimes? We're not talking about a 5-10% disparity here. Over 50% disparity. I mean, Knowles is armed with nothing but pure goofery here.
Or the divorce courts are jilted toward women or whatever. But like the woman who goes to,
or whatever. That's his counter for divorce. Or whatever. What? I mean, is he just basically arguing like a teenage girl at this point? I don't want to offend, I don't want to insult teenage girls. I'm sure there are plenty of teenage girls out there that could argue way more logically and effectively than Michael Knowles is here.
University. I'm sure you get these letters. I get them too.
Mm-hmm.
Woman who goes to a university is told, hook up with every guy you can, study some.
She chooses to, not told.
She's also told, and she chooses to.
Yeah,
she's also told by the culture.
Because that's what she wants to do.
But she's also
told by the culture. Now, there's a difference between degeneracy being generally promoted in the media and specific instructions. Who is telling them? The girl's parents telling her that? I mean, what? I mean, there's a certain general air of be free, do what you want, but there's not specific instructions. Like, what is Knowles hallucinating here? Unless there are, and I missed it, are there PSAs telling high school girls to go and specifically bed as many stranger men as possible? Even the female friends. I've overheard, even at, at a restaurant, I've overheard some of these conversations. They're never super specific. I mean, maybe they are in private, but there's a general sense of going out, but that doesn't specifically mean engaging in physical activity. There's a difference there. You know, go have fun, see as many guys as possible. There isn't a specific instruction, certainly not by teachers, PSAs. There is the general, that you could argue that there is some advice against having a single long-term committed boyfriend or relationship. You could argue that, although that's not even that pushed either. I mean, at this point, Knowles has completely collapsed. He's arguing worse than a teenage girl right now. I mean, who would have thunk it? I mean, Michael Knowles completely decimated and collapsed by Pearl Davis. And that's the crazy thing. Pearl Davis isn't exactly saying anything, revolutionary. She's mostly making basic common sense points that small children can make. And yet it was enough to completely dismantle Michael Knowles.
Told to do it by the culture. You can't downplay that, right?
You can be told to do so. I could be told to jump off a bridge. That doesn't mean
Right, I know, but you
it.
just said she's not told that, and I'm saying she very much is told
Well,
that by the culture.
Does he have a citation? Told by the culture? I mean, there's a difference, that's like saying the culture tells you to do a ton of drugs or murder people, just because that's what's on TV shows and movies. Just because things are so-called promoted, I wouldn't even necessarily say promoted, are displayed in the media. Display and promotion's not the same thing. Heracles in the chat here, I knew Pearl would win because of her common sense positions. Well, here's the thing. Did you know it would be this much of a landslide? I mean, this is like Craig territory. I mean, it's complete and utter annihilation. I mean, I don't think Knowles has won a single point. Not one. I don't believe he's won a single point. I don't think he's caught her on anything in his stream of fallacies here, in his pure bad faith fallacies. Yeah, same here, Heracles. I had no idea how bad. I didn't know it was possible. This is something you might expect from Craig of Fight the Flat Earth, but Michael Knowles? I mean, yeah, this is weird.
Saying she doesn't have to listen. I think it takes accountability off of women when we're constantly saying that the world told you to, and that's why you did it.
No. I agree that their wills have been malformed, and that our entire education system, broadly speaking, and now indulges the lower passions and denies the rational will.
And notice how he's still spinning his wheel and dodging her specific argument about females. So he's, again, going to the broad, painting with a broad brush here. I mean, it's just nothing but but here's the surprising part. It's not just fallacy. It's bad faith fallacy. Like, again, when you take some of these anti-flat earth grifters, I mean, these guys getting decimated in flat earth debates, not all of them are bad faith. And even the ones that are bad faith, they're not bad faith 100% of the time. Some of the times, they're actually arguing in good faith. They might be utterly clueless, but they're arguing in good faith at least a portion of the percentage of the time. Michael Knowles has been completely bad faith here. It's been an uninterrupted stream of fallacies. The cope of spamming red herrings, diversion fallacies, non sequiturs, and straw man. But it's all done with bad faith. That's kind of what was shocking here. I didn't know he was this much of a deceitful liar. I just didn't know. Again, I'm not, a Michael Knowles expert by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, I mean, he just dropped the floor out on the goofery, and he keeps dropping the floor out on his own bad faith deceit. Heracles said he's an idealist when it comes to the topic, and idealism leads to bad faith arguments. I don't know. I don't think he's an I think he's just doing the devil's work here. Intentionally. I mean, how hard did he laugh about the men that got destroyed in divorce court? His own friends. He claimed they were his friends. I don't remember if he said good friends. He either said they were friends or good friends. And then he laughed at them. He literally laughed at these men who couldn't even see their children and, had their lives destroyed. Supposedly he's friends, and he's laughing about it. I mean, if that doesn't expose him, I mean, I don't know.
Denies even the place of reason and truth in public life. But so she does that, and she makes bad choices, and she picks some dumb major, and she graduates, and she's told, don't get married. You got to move to the city, and you got to sleep with 1,000 men, and you got to get a job working as a middle manager at a widget factory. And you're going to do that, and you're going to totally bypass your childbearing.
Where is he hallucinating this from? I mean, obviously, there's something to be said about context and women being. I would say the bigger issue is that females are told they can. There's a certain propaganda of you can have it all. You can have a family and be this boss career woman. I don't know if there's a specific push other than from, certain, purely feminist sources of, don't get married and have a family intentionally and focus on the career. It seems to me most of the culture, even movies, TV shows, there's this illusion that you can have it all and you don't have to sacrifice anything. You can do whatever you want, even if it includes the family, and also having like a top level career. So I don't know where he's hallucinating, strawmanning, spamming these false dichotomies. I mean, I really think I do need to implement the logical analysis system here because I'm curious onto where in the spectrum Knowles would fall here. Because, I don't know, he might be approaching Craig and Sartain. I mean, obviously all in bad faith, but still.
Years sleeping around and going out for brunch and working for Mr. McGillicuddy.
Going out for brunch? What? What does brunch have to do with this? If anything, a lot of these, drunk college students sleep all the way into the afternoon. Well, what brunch is he talking about? now he's come to hallucinating brunches? I mean, who the heck, what kind of hungover college kid goes to brunch? If anything, I mean, they're going to be eating, there might be not even getting to lunch. They might be just eating dinner. Like, the level of gopher here, I mean, is this intentional? Again, we have to go back to the theory. This is all one giant Illuminati humiliation ritual. If Knowles is trying to, push through that ceiling to the highest level of fame and fortune, he might have been intentionally told to be as clueless as possible in this debate.
Cuddy at the Widget
chooses
Factory.
to do that.
She's choosing it, and she's making a poor choice, and she's being encouraged to do it by a fallen culture. And then she's going to wake up one day, and she's going to be about 34, and she's going to regret all of these decisions.
Not 33 or 35 or 36 or 37, but 34. I'm surprised he didn't say 33. Would 33 have been too on the nose for this supposed Yale graduate who denied he was in Skull and Bones? But there's a photo of a guy who looks like he's licking an ear that might be Michael Knowles. Again, I'm not claiming he is or he isn't. That was published in The Atlantic.
And she's going to cry into TikTok. That's what's going to happen. That is a consequence. Living with the consequences of being used by men, of not being able to have a harder time getting married, not having kids, and
why is it that?
I mean, can he be any more bad faith? Because he's not addressing anything that Pearl has said. I mean, he dodged literally every point she made. Let's see what she calls him out on here.
What?
That's a consequence.
I'm sorry. I've been cutting you off a couple times.
Okay.
I do
It's all right.
apologize.
I've got thick skin.
I don't mean to cut you off.
It's okay.
But because my question is, why do we always say is used by men?
Because men
Like, women
use women for sex.
No, but
Wow, he seemed incredibly happy about that. What? Again, is Satan just peeking through the veil of Michael Knowles? Is he using Michael Knowles as an instrument here? He seemed so happy and giddy that women are used, that men use women for sex. I mean, he seemed so giddy about that. He seems to derived great pleasure. That wasn't like a laugh, joking laugh. I mean, there was sheer joy, the same as he was laughed by the men that get destroyed in divorce court and can't see their children. I mean, this guy might be evil. I mean, this is crazy.
women don't use, there are women that hunt top men down and try to sleep with them.
I'm sure the top men are at the top. I mean, I don't know what top men.
But I know,
probably
but
some
see,
pickup
even the
artist
way- even
pimp or
the way you
something.
Like, he can't hide his joy at this topic. Like, he seems to get great pleasure from men being destroyed and women being destroyed and used, while pretending to stick up for the women. I mean, he might be pure. He might be so pure evil that he just hates all humans of both genders.
Describe it. It's like always
'Cause
putting
men-
it on the men.
Because men and women react differently to sex. And
But what does that have to do with who's using who? I mean, has this goof never even heard the term gold digger? I mean, his dodging is crazy. I mean, I'm not going to get into percentages, but to hallucinate that women don't use men for money, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and nowadays in the culture, I mean, there's actually a fair percentage of females using males for sex as well. I mean, just the level of goofery here. But even that aside, I mean, throughout history, women have used men for protection, for resources, etc. Not that it's a bad thing. I mean, it's a good woman and it's a good man, and they're both honest about everything. I'm not saying that's obviously not a bad thing per se. It's only when it's, in deceit, when it's used in deceit, when that seems to be immoral, obviously. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, it's like he can't hide these smirks and pure joy at people's suffering. It's really weird.
Because men tend to pursue in sex and women tend to be pursued.
So hasty generalization, logical fallacy, completely dodging everything Pearl is saying and hiding behind these hasty generalization fallacies.
Because
Oh no, not the top guys.
what do you mean by a top guy?
Yeah, like
Not a top guy?
I've interviewed. I had Brittany Renner on my show. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
Do we know that he was smart enough to avoid these pitfalls? I mean, what kind of pitfalls are we talking about while he was in bed with men and cross-dressing? I mean, I don't know.
There are girls that they learn she talks about this. They learn every single thing about, like, they become targets, the men.
Yeah.
Oh, Heracles clarified in his mind because he's a narcissist. Yeah, very possible.
Yeah.
And they get the guys to sleep with them. They try to steal condoms. Like, this is
But
not.
who's a top man? You mentioned a woman. Who's a top man? And am I a top
Well,
man?
this is something.
I mean, I don't know if she's going to bring it up. I'm assuming she's talking about rich and famous guys or even like athletes in college or that just made it big in the league of whatever sport they're playing. And these women that just throw themselves at these men and try to get pregnant by them using deceitful tactics. Is Michael Knowles pretending that doesn't exist? I mean, it's just weird. Like, his whole contrarian thing here is just really weird. All bad faith.
I want to be
If you were
called
dating
a top
again,
man.
if you were dating again, you might be.
I would be. All right. That's good.
Why does he have so much joy at all? This is so weird. I feel bad for Pearl having to engage with someone that's so bad faith. I mean, love her or hate her, a lot of people criticize Pearl for being not that smart, but it seems to me she's being good faith. Like, she admits when she doesn't know something, like the word unmoored. she admits when she doesn't even know basic words. That would be embarrassing for someone who's a narcissist. Like, a narcissist would never admit that.
Might be. I mean, women, when there's money,
Just my money? It's not my sparkling personality and my good looks? All right.
Look at there.
Okay.
But
I think it seems like obviously this is a pure appeal to humor logical fallacies, but it seems like he's pretending he's joking while trying to indulge his own narcissism so he can hide behind saying that it was just a joke.
just notice in the language, like, somehow it's always the men's fault when we talk about sin. So even in that sin,
women sin, but women are
women
women are taken advantage of because
I disagree.
Wow, that's so misogynist. Like, women have no free agency to make their own decisions. I mean, humans are obviously taken advantage of in general, which includes everybody. Everybody's hoodwinked and grifted and gaslit in different ways. But yeah, his cherry picking just does not stop here. It's crazy.
do you think men and women relate to sex in the same way?
I mean, that has nothing to do with what she's talking about.
I think that at times women have more sexual power than men.
I'm not denying.
And so
women always have more
women,
sexual power
I mean,
than
women
men.
take advantage of. You could say women take advantage of lonely men on OnlyFans.
But they do. What I'm
Yeah.
asking is, do you think that men and women relate to sex in the same way?
I mean, I would just ask him to define if he was familiar with the term gold digger. Because, I mean, is this goof that utterly clueless about of all of history and basic psychology in that he thinks women don't use men? So because, I mean, again, what's with all these false dichotomies? Because men use women for sex, that means women can't use men for money or resources or sex also? In his deranged mind, like, what is going on in the mind of Michael Knowles? Now, obviously, he's so bad faith and he's just lying all over the place. He probably... I'm not even sure that he truly is thinking about anything because it seems he doesn't care. He's just here to do the devil's work, and he doesn't even really care about logically dissecting anything. Otherwise, why would he just be spewing nothing but fallacy here?
No.
They don't. That's
course
why
not.
we talk about men and women in sex differently.
And Pearl is letting herself be diverted with these diversion fallacies. Because like I said before, this is all a master class in diversion fallacy. Because Michael Knowles, like 99% of this whole so-called debate was Knowles going on diversion fallacies, spamming either red herrings or all-out non sequiturs. This would be, I guess, a red herring because it's tangentially related, but not specifically related to her point. And she's allowing herself to be led astray here by these diversion fallacies instead of calling this deceitful guy on it.
We ascribe different moral.
Right, but I think your
attitudes.
accountability for the action is still, it's on you. So I don't think when women sin, it's the fault of society. I don't think it's the fault the men are just using you. You know, I think that when women do that, it's a choice.
Sure. Do you think
And
people
I
can
don't.
be
I was actually going to save this for the MINDSHOCK dating podcast. But I'll make the point here. Just because Knowles' deceitful gophery is so extreme, I have to chime in here. I would say 99% of all the issues are because the good women are used and hoodwinked by these scumbag men. And the good men seem to be used and hoodwinked by these scumbag women. And then they paint with a broad brush the entire opposite gender. Some of it might have to do with luck, obviously. You know, those that deny that there's an element of luck, I mean, come on. Good people sometimes luckily encounter other good people and have successful relationships or families. Luck is a factor, just like in business. There's luck, just like in sports. Sometimes the best or most talented athlete isn't the one who wins. There's just a series of circumstances that line up. People get lucky. Now, sometimes good people get lucky too. Sometimes bad people get lucky. But the main issue is the painting with a broad brush and the false dichotomies. You know, the really, really good-hearted women that got taken advantage of, and then everybody uses that as the de facto example of all men, painting all the good men with the same brush as the bad men who really did do that to the good woman, and vice versa with the man. If I had just a quick little, you know, tidbit there to explain the entire issue with relationships and dynamics, I would explain it as that. Where, you know, the 99% and the 1% for both genders, and just, you know, then they project that on the entire gender and sabotage themselves from meeting other good people.
deceived?
I think women play dumb a lot. It's like I'll interview these women on abortion, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know." What, you didn't have Google?
Yeah. Well, you say they play dumb, which they do, but are they
Yeah,
dumb
but that's
sometimes?
my
That's what I'm asking.
well.
You would say
sorta.
yes. You would say yes.
Yeah,
So people
but
obviously can be.
What would Michael Knowles say, though?
Deceived.
They can be deceived, but you're still accountable for the choices that you make. And I don't necessarily, I think sometimes it's just the easier choice. Like women don't want to do the hard thing.
What's the hard thing?
I would say it's easy to sleep around.
Yeah,
That's an
yeah,
easy thing to do. Women are
it's a
picking-
temptation for
women
men
are-
too.
Correct.
more for
but
men,
but it's easier for women.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Correct. But that's the getting.
That's kind of why I
Yeah.
attack the guys for using women.
But
is
what
yeah.
what percent of men are even using women? It's like 80% of women are involved in hookup culture, maybe 5% of men.
Yeah,
And I
the
can
top
tell you,
men, yeah.
I could even say this like,
Wow, I mean, she's just completely destroying this goof. You know, I mean, this is just basic common sense, basic stats. I mean, and Knowles carefully avoids, like, every time he gets completely and utterly humiliated and obliterated, he just completely pretends she didn't say that and doesn't address the point and immediately spams diversion fallacies to cope.
from doing my show, I'll interview a guy. He's sleeping with like 3, 4, he'll go on
Yeah, that's
3,
bad.
4 chicks from the show.
Right, that's
I-
bad, right? That's bad. You
I-
would say that's a bad thing for him.
I-
Yeah, look at the dodge. He immediately goes after the guy when she just gave him the stats. You know, a couple percent of men are involved with the majority of women who are sleeping around. And yet it's it's only those couple men's fault. Like, this is so weird. Like, the level of goofery here on Knowles. Like, look at his face. I'm actually not even 100% aware he realizes how clueless he is here. Now, that doesn't mean he has a mental disability. I mean, this whole thing is just so weird. It's like he accepted the devil's assignment here, and he's gonna do the devil's work no matter what. But he's also going to be part of this Illuminati humiliation ritual and humiliate himself as much as possible while doing the devil's work. I mean, is that what's going on here? I don't claim anything is true or untrue. This is MINDSHOCK, where the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. I'm just trying to decipher all of this. S King 36 in here. Hello, not related, but have you ever before made a video on the U.S. presidents being blood related to royal families? Begging the question whether or not they are just put into their position. I've gone over presidents being selected instead of elected. We might have touched upon that in the Is America a British Colony podcast, perhaps? And if the Revolutionary War wasn't as purported in the mainstream. But let's continue here. I mean, Knowles' humiliation. I mean, this is humiliating. So does he not care? Is he unaware, or does he just understand the assignment? Because if he was in Skull and Bones, supposedly there's a lot of humiliation ritual in that as well, priming them for a life in the limelight, which will continue being a series of humiliation rituals to pledge allegiance to this secret society.
Sure, but my point is more women. There's 5 women partaking in it where there's 1 man.
But it's one man doing it 5 times as much as the women. That's why I'm knocking the men.
What? Wait, he's knocking at men plural because it's 1 guy? So there's 5 women responsible, 1 guy, and he only wants to knock the guy while calling it a plural? I mean, we're full-on mentally disabled. I mean, can he not do basic arithmetic here? I mean, what is going on here? I mean, was his assignment to just humiliate himself exponentially, increasing exponentially throughout the entire interview? I mean, if so, mission accomplished, Michael Knowles. Mission accomplished.
My point is more women are responsible for hookup culture than men.
But the men are more. You just acknowledged the men are more culpable in that they are doing it more frequently than the women.
No.
Yeah, but they're not the ones, unless they're violating the woman's rights and will, they're not the one allowing for it. They're the ones technically asking permission, and the women are the ones allowing the act, unless it's a criminal act. So if we're talking lawful acts with consenting adults, the woman is the one who is allowing it to happen, not the man. I mean, obviously the man is willing as well, but the woman, I mean, in certain cases, not even in all cases, obviously there's a whole lot of weird cases out there, you know, manipulation and otherwise. Yeah, Heracles is saying this has to be on purpose. I mean, I don't know, I might have to appeal to incredulity, unless we say Michael Knowles has a legitimate mental disability, or some kind of split personality, one of which has a mental disability, but his vocabulary is just kind of too good here. It seems like it's all intentional deceit.
Oh, I would say there's 5 women, so it's way more.
But they're individually each doing it with the same guy.
And also usually with other guys if they're that promiscuous. So I mean, everything he's saying is patently false. And I mean, this is basic common sense. If you're dealing with a promiscuous woman, she doesn't have 1 guy. She has many guys. Like, what is he talking about here? Does he not even know the definition of promiscuity? Does he not know what sleep around means? I mean, the level of goofery here, I mean, this is crazy. And not to mention, this is all several layers within a diversion fallacy and several layers within a cherry-picking fallacies. I mean, he just has all these fallacies while dodging Pearl's points every step of the way. I mean, she's being very patient with him here. I would have obviously called him out more on his deceitful and goofy tactics, but I guess she's too nice. I don't know.
Talking about, like, you're basically saying to men, oh, don't sleep. Most men can't. Most men aren't.
Which is good. That's actually a great...
Wait, what? I mean, he's being more contrarian than Joe Rogan, so she's basically saying it's good? What? So he's completely wrong, and then he just flat out says, yeah, but it's good. So he's completely wrong about everything, just made an utter fool of himself. But it's good. It's good that most men can't be promiscuous even if they wanted to, which has nothing to do with the point here on whether it was good or not. Pearl's trying to focus on the reality of the situations, and Knowles is again diverting. I mean, he's just a master of diversion fallacy. I haven't seen him cope this hard anywhere else by spamming diversion fallacies. Usually, the people he's arguing with are the ones spamming diversion fallacies. Heracles says, I have seen him be very logical on the fly before. I've seen him handle new information without going full retard. This is something way out of character. It's very strange, I have to say. It's very strange. I mean, that's also one of the reasons I wanted to do this logical analysis. I wasn't 100% sure what to expect. But Knowles, before this interview, would have been regarded as an intellectual powerhouse, as a debating powerhouse. I mean, he's absolutely decimated fools on various stages, not just colleges, but yeah, I mean, this is, I mean, I don't know. If this is Illuminati humiliation ritual, then I guess it makes sense.
Imitation of their ugliness.
Yeah, fine. But it's like,
Their lack of riz.
but it's just so fun.
Their lack of riz. That's what he's bringing to the table. Lack of riz. So dodging every single point she made, indulging in diversion fallacy after diversion fallacy, and then saying lack of riz. Wow.
Riz. But it's funny because it's like the hookup culture, women are more responsible for hookup culture than men. And if
Right,
there's
'cause
10 women, if there's 10 women.
Right, so now he's agreeing. See, I've never seen this level of contrarian before. He goes full retard contrarian, full vegetable contrarian, but then he goes contrarian on his own contrarian, just to continue saying he's contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. But if this is Illuminati humiliation ritual, because in non-Illuminati humiliation ritual, you wouldn't humiliate yourself by going contrarian against your own contrarian. But if there are no limits here, and he was ordered by his handlers to just humiliate himself exponentially as it goes on, that would explain why he's basically calling himself an idiot by going contrarian on his own contrarian, supporting her own point that he was just arguing against. I mean, does anybody have any other explanation for this? Like, I've never seen something quite like this before. I mean, I've just never seen something like this. Because even Joe Rogan in his contrarian goofery, he's such a narcissist, he's not going to admit he's wrong. He doesn't go contrarian on his own contrarian, but Michael Knowles is.
That partake in it, there's less men that can't.
No, women are more responsible for hookup culture than men because they allow men to sleep with them.
That was exactly her point. Like, look at his face. Like, he's actually genuine. Okay, I have no idea what to make of this. I have no idea what to... This whole interview doesn't make sense because he just spent 10 minutes disagreeing with her, and now he just phrased exactly her point. Because the lack of accountability, he was saying it's the men's fault, and now he's saying, well, it's actually the woman's fault, which was her point in the first place. Wow. Again, I mean, I don't think we're going to finish this in this part either. I mean, the level of goofery here, I don't know. Heracles, help me out here. You've been here this whole time. What do you make of him going contrarian on his own contrarian, and then stating basically the point that Pearl was making? He states the point that she stated after he's just spent all this time humiliating himself, arguing against it. I've never seen anything like this before. I mean, I have no idea what's going on. Heracles can't explain it either. As King 36 says, it is not easy to analyze logical thought of a retard. No, but here's the thing. Michael Knowles is actually fairly intelligent. I mean, is it a split personality? Okay, is it a split person? Okay, I have another theory. Is it a split personality where he's weaving in and out of personalities very quickly? Heracles says, if he had blue hair, I would understand. Now, even Destiny doesn't go contrarian on his own contrarian. I mean, Destiny's full vegetable, full retard, no question. But he's also an extreme narcissist, so he doesn't admit that he's wrong and basically restate the exact point someone else is making. Knowles has done this continually this entire so-called debate. So if he's quickly weaving out of personality, so if personality A is the highly intelligent Knowles that we've seen pretty much everywhere other than this interview, And he was given the assignment to do the devil's work, and this is an Illuminati humiliation ritual, and he's intentionally carrying it out. But then, if he does have a split personality and the other one is full retard, if the other one's full retard, he could have weaved into the other one just for that statement, and then he goes back to his first personality where he's intentionally humiliating himself as an intelligent person doing the devil's work. I think we got it. Does that cover everything? I think I covered it. Heracles, does that make sense? So personality A is highly intelligent and accepted the assignment, the Illuminati humiliation ritual. Personality B might not even be aware of the ritual, and it's just full retard personality B, which he just wove into for a statement like that. So he's just weaving in and out of both personalities. I think that covers all the variables here. That might be the McGuire theory for now.
And they're the ones who are being pursued. So I agree with you on that.
Well, the top.
But that is he agrees with her on that while just arguing against it for 5 minutes straight.
The top men are the women are pursuing them. I would, if you look at but
Yeah. Again, do we have an example of a top man?
A rock star, an athlete, a millionaire. I mean, Pearl's. This is a big minus on Pearl. I mean, it's very easy to answer this question.
I mean, examples that I think of, and I know because this is always where the convo goes, then it's like the religion decides who's a top man, but I'm talking about who women.
No, this is the first I'm hearing this
Okay.
term, and I would like it to apply to me, but perhaps.
Are we believing that this is the first time Knowles is hearing the term top man? I mean, I guess that would be synonymous with high value man, or just, a 1%er, or a rich guy, or an elite athlete, or a rock star. I mean, a star, a celebrity. I mean, the level of gophery and deceit here, deceitful gophery, is what Knowles is mastering here.
So who's
okay,
a top man?
An example of a type of man that women go for is, say, athletes.
Yeah. Sneaker
that's-
chasers. Jersey chasers, we called them.
Yeah.
Wait, so he's well aware? What? Is he weaving personalities again? Jersey chasers. I've actually never heard that term, but whatever. So he's well aware? Like what? What is he even arguing? I mean, what is going on here?
Correct. I'm saying, in those examples, the women are pursuing them. It's not the women being innocent and used. It's women driving to the games, getting a hotel.
Yeah, they're interested.
Stalking. There was one chick. God, it was crazy. She tells me that God, this is just such a crazy story. They literally figure out where there's a, what do you call it? A hangout, I guess, after games where the athletes all go and the wives aren't there. And there are women that go there and try to get men to cheat on their wives.
Groupies. They're like groupies.
Yeah. Yeah, but my point is there are far more women.
So Michael Knowles is actually helping her make the exact argument that he's arguing against, then pretending to support. This is the most bizarre interview I have ever seen.
Responsible for hookup culture than men. But yet, when I go on podcasts, we always somehow bring the conversation back to the men, even though far more women are engaging in it.
This is, I guess,
and we
why.
can't even definitively say don't date a woman that did sex work.
I find this kind of utilitarian view of responsibility actually kind of delightful when you say, look, there's...
He's got an earpiece. Is that an earpiece? Is that an earpiece there? Which is kind of funny because Heracles was just saying that he has marching orders, no doubt. So he's got an earpiece there. Interesting.
5 women who are doing it.
Yep, he's got an earpiece.
Though I think it does cut the other way because each of these total Sigma Chad dudes are sleeping with 5 women each. So I think either way it kind of cuts. But that's not really my question at all. My question is, don't men have a moral responsibility to act in a certain way?
Men cannot lead women.
And I don't think she has an earpiece unless her hair is covering her right ear. There's no earpiece in the left ear, and there's no earpiece in Michael Knowles' right ear that the camera can see. Heracles is saying what she is not saying is that there are good men all around these girls trying to get their attention. Yeah, that's a good point. And the women are all not interested in the nice guys. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Well, Knowles, in all of his spamming of fallacies and his deceitful nature, let's accept that these 1% or 5% of scumbag guys are taking advantage of women, but most of these women want to be taken advantage of and are also taking advantage of the guy. So, as I stated earlier, it's kind of a 1 to 99% ratio where the really good women are being taken advantage of by some of these scumbag guys, and these really good men are being taken advantage of by scumbag women, and nobody calls that out the way that I just did. You have these men's rights activists that are all anti-women and the black pillars. Even the red pillars don't really seem to state what I just stated. Because a lot of these guys that go red pill, so to speak, are because, and again, I'm usually not one to go the luck route, but luck does play a role here. It really does. And so some really good men and really good women simply get unlucky, and they allow that to stain their image of literally everybody of the opposite gender. S King 36 says, I think he came into this with the goal to beat her because what she speaks of isn't politically correct, and he always takes the politically correct side. Does he? I mean, I don't think so. I mean, isn't he anti-PC regarding everything other than this topic? Because he just dismantles, all these college kid goofs who technically have the PC side.
Women that don't want to be led.
And
Yes,
then-
yes.
Hold on.
I think the main issue is that he thought Pearl was just this dumb girl. He didn't expect her to come armed with all the facts and stats, and including even Bible references, absolutely decimating him. It seemed like he kind of thought he didn't even have to prep for this. And this is the decimation that left him stuttering and sputtering. I've never seen him stutter and sputter as much as in this interview. I might even do a compilation because it's definitely over a minute or two of just pure stuttering and sputtering.
Yes,
But I guess-
yes. Wait, I'm gonna
Yes,
finish.
okay.
Let me finish, Mike.
Okay, I was trying to lead you.
Wow, he admitted it. He was trying to lead her. All the straw manning. Why is she being so nice about this? He's been straw manning her this entire time.
Sorry. No. I do think men have a moral responsibility to act in a certain way. Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, there you
But
have it.
I don't think men have to get married if there are not enough wives to go around.
But there,
Right there again, the stuttering and the sputtering.
It's like it doesn't
if there are not enough
compute.
women who you say
know-
are
you know-
marriageable.
You know what's so crazy?
What?
Under the age of 35,
Yeah, it does not appear she has an earpiece. It's just Michael Knowles with the earpiece to his handlers.
now the problem is with a lot of these, I know we're gonna go back.
Statistics are all
but-
fake, but I'm happy to hear them.
Well, I'd believe it too, just from interviewing
They're all fake except when Knowles is using them to make a plan.
1,000 women.
Sure.
5 to 15% of women under 35 are on full OnlyFans, cam, or some sort of sex work. According, there's a guy who does research for me.
Who-
He's really
okay.
Dr. David Baker. He's like a published author, really
Okay.
smart guy.
That seems high to me.
That's what I thought too. I swear to God, that's what I thought.
And those are the numbers they came up with. Theoretically, they could even be higher. I mean, maybe they could be lower, but they could also be higher. Obviously, the true numbers are unknown. Heracles said she is usually getting openly attacked, so she's probably happy that he isn't calling names. Yeah, but he's being so deceitful. I mean, this guy's an absolute snake charlatan. I mean, I didn't know that before this interview. And then we find out that even after he refound Catholicism, he was still doing these degenerate Hollywood movies and degenerate acting work. Because someone in the chat said it after he did that, he no longer did those acting roles, but he clearly did because that was after his Yale graduation.
So I interviewed 1,000 women. I can't even count how many sex workers I've met.
But don't you
no,
think the
we
kind of
interviewed
women?
random. No.
You don't
sorry.
think the kind of women who go on like
No, not at all.
relationship podcasts
No.
are kind of self-selecting?
Okay, that actually is the first decent point Knowles made. So here's the thing. By that logic, a lot of good women who are not only honorable, but also intelligent, would they even sign up for any of these dating apps? In which case, wait, Heracles, what is your wow in relation to his first good point? Because the good women, the very few good women, according to the Bible and just basic common sense, you know, the really good women who, again, the red pill guys love and, praise, unlike misogynists like Michael Knowles and feminists who, think that females don't have agency and aren't responsible for their own decisions and are too stupid and are just being manipulated by men. So unlike those misogynists, red pill guys actually praise and respect good and intelligent women. So not black pill guys, which is the straw man argument. Obviously those guys are relatively misogynistic as well. But they praise these good women, which are obviously the minority. There's not that many of them. So if they're not on the dating websites and they're not going on the podcasts, by default, they're hard to find. So Michael Knowles here, even though that statement was true, it exposed his own goofery as well. So that's not even like a real point for Knowles. Because if the really good women are that hard to find, you won't find them. So they won't be on the hookup dating apps and, the majority of girls engaging in this hookup culture on college camp. Like, you won't be able to find them because they're hidden, as the Bible says. I mean, do we have to go through the Bible passages again? Proverbs 31:10, a good woman is hard to find and worth far more than diamonds. Yet Knowles himself was saying that OnlyFans doesn't disqualify a woman from dating a woman. And yet with the same breath, this hypocritical charlatan snake doing the devil's work is saying that those are the type that would go on the podcast. So the hypocrisy is so insane. So even though that was a technically accurate point, his own hypocrisy is so insane here. Now, is he so dumb that he doesn't see it? Is he weaving into his full retard split personality? I mean, what's going on here?
Don't you think the trad women just don't go on camera?
But are the trad women on OnlyFans, which he said don't disqualify them from being marriageable? I mean, look at that snake's smile. It's like he knows he's being deceitful and he doesn't care.
That's been my experience.
No.
No, I think that.
No,
I think
I would say when you do when you interview 1,000 women.
Wait, what? What? When you do 1,000 women? What? Someone actually made a comment about Pearl being in the closet or something in the previous ones. Was that a Freudian slip? She almost just said when you do 1,000 women. That's kind of weird.
You just start to see patterns. I've had Christian women on. I've had women from Eastern Europe. I've had women. We don't select.
Eastern Europe is like the hotbed of pornography in the world, isn't it?
I thought that was Hollywood. Wow. I mean, is Michael Knowles really a shill? He's trying to shift. I mean, doesn't he blame Hollywood also, though? Again, is he being a contrarian on his contrarian? This is crazy. And Eastern Europe has millions and millions and millions of people, even if it is a hotbed. Isn't California a hotbed for that? And yet, I'm sure there are some good women in California. Maybe not in Hollywood or LA, but, out away from the cities, California is huge.
Well, I mean, I could say Japan. I could keep going. I'm in London, so it's pretty international.
I guess my only point is women who go on shows to be interviewed tend to be a little less trad than the women who stay home and bake bread.
His only point, did you guys catch that Freudian slip? He just literally said that's his only point, and it's true. That's the only point that was legit that he made this entire time. And he admitted it openly. So he just admitted that he's just being a charlatan here and contrarian and just totally bad faith other than that one single point. But what's weird is with the same breath, this goof was saying that the OnlyFans girls aren't disqualified from being marriageable or dating material anyway. He just said that earlier. Now he's saying that they're the type to go on podcasts, but he just said they weren't disqualified either. So what's the real point here?
You know a lot of women under the age of 30 that
Yeah.
are staying home and baking
I
bread.
do.
I think that it's, again, as I've said, you guys are a bit out of
Heracles says this interview could be a case study. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a case study for possibly weaving in and out of full retard personality disorder, multiple personality disorder, and also diversion fallacy. I mean, this whole entire thing is almost all a diversion fallacy from Knowles.
touch to what the average man is experiencing dating in this country.
Or are we just in touch with a different group of people? I guess is my point.
And that would be a point if he didn't just say that OnlyFans doesn't disqualify someone from, being marriageable. So if it's a different group, then why is he including the sex workers in the same group that he's talking about of his cherry picking of a cherry picking? Because Pearl is talking about the general population. He was talking about not just the Catholics, but the real Catholics. So it was a cherry picking of a cherry picking. So he's talking about this 1% of good men and women in his mind, when Pearl is clearly talking about everybody. And this deceitful goofery and bad faith, because a small child could grasp the difference there, whether you're talking about 1% of something or 100% of something.
You're right. When one surrounds oneself
Mhm.
with people who are divorced or with people who are on OnlyFans or whatever, then it kind of skews where you would.
Well, he also, again, this complete intentional misunderstanding of what she said. She said she's had everybody on. Christians, career women, college students, non-Christian. I mean, she's had so many different types. I think she said out of the 1,000, only 30% were sex workers, right? Not even the majority. Not even the majority. And then this goof is pretending that she's only interviewing these types of people. I mean, could you be more dishonest than Michael Knowles here? I mean, I don't think it's possible. I mean, if somebody can figure out a way, feel free to mention it. I'm not seeing it. Maybe I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying I'm not seeing it. Because this intentional misrepresentation, false premise, just blatant lies at this point. Blatant deceit.
Find the median or the average. But
But-
if you spend your time in like the middle of America with like in nice parishes.
Well, you just
and-
contradicted yourself because earlier you
He just contradicted himself every second. I'm glad that Pearl's finally calling him out on it, though. What took her so long?
said that you had close friends that were divorced.
I do.
So even
but it's not the
even in,
average.
even in your circles, you still
Well, I'm from New York and I lived in LA, so it wasn't always living in
right.
the
But
middle
that's
of
why
America.
sometimes
I mean, look at the pleasure on his face talking about when he lived in New York and LA. I mean, it's like the devil can't contain the smile while using Knowles as an instrument.
I'm like, do you not see?
And why didn't she just repeat? Like, did I hear that wrong? She only said 30% were OnlyFans or sex workers, right? Out of the 1,000 she interviewed. Did I hear that correctly? I don't want to go back through it, but from what I heard, that's what she said. So the minority are in sex work out of everybody she's interviewed. And she just said the mentality was the same even from non-sex workers and, Christians or religious people. So she's saying the mentality was the same across the board. He either didn't comprehend that or intentionally pretended not to while spamming more diversion and straw man.
Reality? Like, do you guys not see what's going on out here?
Yeah,
Like, and
I agree
religious
that-
attendance in the younger generation, it's going down. Slower than ever.
Yeah, sure. Though again, you kind of got to get a little bit more specific about it because the people, first of all, there is a movement of young people going back to churches, and they're going back to the more orthodox ones.
Wait, what? Is anybody even following Knowles at this point? He just agreed with her that church attendance all-time low for young people, and then he's saying they're also moving back to going to church. So even if it's an all-time low, but it's possibly recovering, so it's possibly already hit bottom and reversing, that doesn't invalidate her general point. I mean, this... Is anybody else as mind shocked by this interview as I am? I mean, just the level of good. I mean, Michael Knowles is legitimately giving Craig a fight the flat earth a run for his money. I never thought I'd see anybody being able to give Craig a run for his money, but Michael Knowles is doing it.
They're not going to the hippy-dippy
Good.
egalitarian feminist.
Yeah, yeah.
So, again,
I mean, look at that insane strawman and appeal to extremes fallacy, where he's bringing up men going to feminist churches. What? Nobody was even talking about that. Why is he even bringing that up? Why is he talking about brunch and feminist church? Like, this is not a subject. What is going on?
and this is why I find the statistical arguments to be kind of fruitless.
They're fruitless because they destroy his point? Salt in the chat here saying, I'd say Knowles is doing this on purpose, but Craig isn't. Yeah, that's a good point. Knowles seems to be completely bad faith. Unless he's oscillating in his full retard split personality back and forth. In which case, that personality wouldn't be doing it on purpose, but his main one would be.
Which is, okay, when we say something is natural, we mean it in two ways, right? We mean it in it deriving from the principles of nature, like a tree sprouts from the ground.
Appeal to nature fallacy.
And we mean it in a way that involves free will. Like, you can make a natural choice or an unnatural choice.
Well, also, as we went over, I believe it was part 1 or maybe part 2, where Knowles was either intentionally lying about the natural definition from Catholic reference texts, because I actually went through the Catholic reference, and it was not what Knowles said. So he's intentionally lying about it, or he's clueless about Catholicism.
And so I guess what I'm suggesting is we live at a time that is exalting really unnatural and disordered behaviors, especially in the circles you're talking about. And I'm suggesting maybe we ought to focus on these circles that are growing in a lot of places where they're.
Let's focus on the 1% and ignore the 99%. I'm not pausing this on purpose, but it is very revealing. The so-called, the micro expressions or the catches of Knowles. Like, this is a good representation of his brain function in this interview thus far.
There is a return toward reasonable behavior.
What about what Glenn was talking about earlier? When he was talking about what verses were they?
Proverbs 31.
So
Proverbs 31, starting from verse 10, talks about.
Oh, wow. I've been mentioning this verse for the first 3 parts, and they finally brought it forward. Pearl's producer here, about to decimate Michael Knowles here about how rare a virtuous wife is. Let's see what Knowles' response is. Look at the panic. Look at the sheer panic on his face. He knows, yeah, he's definitely doing it on purpose. Look at the sheer panic on his face. This was like when Pearl asked him what percentage of women are marriageable. He definitely knows Proverbs 31:10. Look at the sheer panic on his face at this being brought up. Let's see how he attempts to scramble out of this. Look at his face. Here, I'll blow it up so everybody can see better. Look at the sheer panic. Look at that. Is that not a busted face? He got busted. I mean, there's way more verses. We went over them on the previous part. Let's see how he attempts to scramble out of this one.
How rare a virtuous wife is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's as rare as rubies.
For those who can't hear without the microphone,
Yeah, okay.
that a virtuous woman is rarer than the finest rubies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was.
That's all he's got. He just repeats the verse, and he makes no reference to he talked about parity earlier. It's not hard to get married. 50% are women. And then he just repeats the verse, and that's it. That's how he gets out of this. He repeats the verse, so basically proving his deceitful nature, and that's it, and makes no reference to how this completely exposed him. Well, let's see if Pearl calls him on this. Like, I want him to bring, what happened to the parody? Not parody, parity. The parody he talked about, where half the population is women, so it's very easy to get married. Yet Proverbs 31:10 directly contradicts that, because a virtuous, or a good woman is so incredibly rare. How do you find her?
But even in the Bible, it implies that it's an exception, not the rule.
Sure, and also the Bible says, "Be fruitful and multiply," and our Lord.
Wow. His only cope is completely dodging and scrambling for another passage. Wow. How cowardly. So not only is he a deceitful liar, but he is an all-out coward. Wow. I mean, they should shove down the other verses. We can go through them again. We have Proverbs 21:19. It's better to live alone in the desert than with a quarrelsome, complaining wife. Alone in the desert, not alone in a house. It's better to be in the desert. And there was actually one more. Someone in the comments actually brought it up. I had totally forgotten about the other passage. There's actually a couple more passages. Let's go over them. I hope they ram them down Noel's throat, because this is another non sequitur fallacy. Multiply. Do you need to get married to multiply? Obviously not. And who are they talking to in be fruitful to multiply? The context there. They're not talking about evil people being fruitful and multiplying. This is specifically in relation to God blessing Noah and Noah's sons. This was God's personal blessing to Noah and Noah's sons, not the entire population of the earth, not to the heathens and the sinners. This is specifically to Noah and his son. Noah personally chosen. I mean, could you be more, like, this is the most embarrassing. I mean, I don't think I could ever watch Knowles again. He is intent. I hope they call him on this. And look, I'm not even a Bible scholar. I know I do quote the Bible a lot. I enjoy reading the Bible. I think there's a lot of knowledge in it. I'm not a Christian, by the way. I research the Bible like I research everything. I'm very comprehensive. But I am not a Bible scholar. And even children in Sunday school know that the be fruitful and multiply does not apply to everyone, first of all. Second of all, that has nothing to do with marriage. It's a specific blessing from God to Noah and Noah's sons, specifically to repopulate the earth at that time after the Great Flood, because the Great Flood wiped out almost everything, or everything in a certain area. So it needs to be repopulated by Noah and his sons, not by heathens and blasphemers and Jezebels and Lilith's line of demonic women. Like, the level of deceit here from this snake, Michael Knowles, intentionally misrepresenting the Bible and completely dodging that passage and misquoting an out of context Genesis 1:28. I mean, he also said that to Adam and Eve. in Genesis 1:28, and then he said that to Noah. So he said it to Noah and Adam and Eve. I'm looking at multiple different translations here, not just the King James. So in both of those cases, the context was specific to Adam and Eve, not Adam and Lilith, by the way, Lilith, the mother of demons. Some people believe the Jezebel line of evil women all originated with Lilith, and that Eve, the good woman, the good wife, even though she was deceived by Satan, that's still the good line of women. So Lilith would be the bad line, the Jezebel line, and then Eve the good. And so these instructions are for Adam and Eve and Noah and his sons. So both in the context of the Garden of Eden and... Okay, so Genesis 9:1 was God blessing Noah and his sons, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. There's also Leviticus 26:9, where the specific reference is to those with a covenant with God. So again, not those who mock God, not the blasphemers. This is very specific. We're talking about a 1% of a 1% of a 1%. 5 of you will pursue 100, and 100 of you will pursue 10,000, and your enemies will fall by the sword before you. I will turn toward you and make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will establish my covenant with you. So he's obviously not telling the enemies to be fruitful and multiply, the enemies of God and God's people. So is it possible to be even more out of context and deceitful than Michael Knowles is being here? What's up, Dave Scott? I mean, Michael Knowles is such a lying snake. I mean, he's literally doing the devil's work here. I mean, just... there's no way he's full retard and he doesn't know that be fruitful and multiply refers specifically to Adam and Eve and Noah and his sons, and in Leviticus 26:9, those specifically with a covenant with God and not the enemies of those people. So these are very specific references that Michael Knowles is intentionally misrepresenting. Intentionally. I mean, this level of goofery, just the goofery, the deceit, the bad faith. I mean, this is crazy. Is it possible to be more bad faith than Michael Knowles? I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure it is. There's also, this is another one. I hope Pearl's producers is well versed in the Bible, because I hope they call him out on his deceit there. And also there is Proverbs 5:3. Five, 3-4. For the lips of an immoral woman are as sweet as honey, and her mouth is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is as bitter as poison and as dangerous as a double-edged sword. Proverbs 2:16. Wisdom will save you from an adulterous woman, from the wayward woman with her seductive words. Proverbs 22:14. The mouth of an adulterous woman is a deep pit. A man who is under the Lord's wrath falls into it. There's also Romans 1:26. That is why God abandoned them to their shameful desires. Even the women turned against the natural way to have sex and instead indulged in sex with each other. I don't know if that's specifically to bisexual lesbian women, but it says that that's why God abandoned them. Proverbs 23, 27, 28. A prostitute is a dangerous trap. A promiscuous woman is as dangerous as falling into a narrow well. She hides and waits like a robber, eager to make more men unfaithful. And these are the women that Michael Knowles specifically said are not disqualified from dating or marriage. Michael Knowles, he called it an obstacle, but not a disqualification. He didn't say she has to repent and change her ways. He just said it wasn't ideal. It's not disqualifying from her marriage, but according to Knowles, she's still qualified for marriage. It's just she's not an ideal candidate, but still a candidate, according to Michael Knowles. I mean, he is literally doing the devil's work. Mark 10:12. If she divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery. That's an interesting debate on divorce. Proverbs 30:20. This is the way of an adulterous woman. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I've done nothing wrong. I mean, the Bible is so crazy in its psychology, not just of women, but men's psychology, the psychology of rulers, the corrupt, the psychology of statists, scum, and oppressors. I mean, just the what the Bible reveals about human psychology is just incredible. 1 Timothy 5:13. If they are on the list, I don't know if this is Chris Jericho's list. You just made the list. They will learn to be lazy and will spend their time gossiping from house to house, meddling in other people's business, and talking about things they shouldn't. I mean, was this predicting the rise of Karens? Does 1 Timothy 5:13 predict the rise of Karens? I still can't find the passage. Does anybody remember the passage that a listener brought up in the chat on the previous part? Alright, we're going to go into MINDSHOCK land now because supposedly the women of Zion were specifically referred to as evil. Alright, are we going to get our stream shut down from this? Alright, we're going into MINDSHOCK land on this one. Alright, who knows what a Nazirite is, or a Nazirite? Nazirite. This is Numbers 6:1-21. In the Hebrew Bible, a Nazirite or a Nazarite is a man or woman who voluntarily took a vow. A sacred person whose separation was most commonly distinguished by his uncut hair and abstinence from wine. A Nazirite, to abstain from or to consecrate oneself to. Nazirite. The vow of the Nazirite is to abstain from wine, wine vinegar, grapes, and raisins, refrain from cutting the hair on one's head, avoid corpses and graves. I mean, is it popular to not avoid corpses and graves? And even those of family members in any structure which contains such. Okay, so I guess you can't ever visit any cemetery. Wow. Wow. I mean, is that coincidental that what the Nazi right is? Nazi right or Nazi right? Or Nazarite? The Nazi rite would also offer a specific animal sacrifice. The Nazi rite is described as being holy and holy unto God, yet at the same time, he or she must bring a sin offering. This has led to divergent approaches to the Nazi rite in the Talmud and later authorities, while some viewing the Nazi rite as an ideal and others viewing the Nazirite as a sinner. The Nazi rite comes from the Hebrew word nazir or nazir, meaning consecrated or separated, and may ultimately derive from a root meaning to vow, similar to Hebrew nadar. The nazir is also sometimes used to refer to a prince of darkness perhaps, who fills a special position of secular power, and the cognate word netzer can refer to either the state of being a Nazirite or else to a physical crown. Anybody find this all coincidental? We got Nazi rights, Nazis, and NASA, which means to deceive. I mean, these are all very, very weird etymological claims here. I mean, is this all coincidental? I mean, I'm actually getting somewhere here with the woman of Zion in a second. So again, the Nazi right or Nazi right, the right of the Nazi. I mean, this is crazy. The etymology here. I'm actually surprised. I don't recall much of this. I really don't recall this. I'm surprised more people aren't talking about this. But the laws of the Nazi rite include sacrifices. 3 offerings: a lamb as a burnt offering, an ewe as a sin offering, and a ram as a peace offering. Also, 3 additional offerings: a basket of unleavened bread, a grain offering, and a drink offering to accompany the peace offering. He would also shave his head in the outer courtyard of the Temple of Jerusalem and place the hair on the same fire as the peace offering. Wow. Wow. The prophet Amos condemned the Israelites for their failure to respect the Nazi rite vow. And I raised up some of your sons as prophets and some of your young men as Nazirites, and you gave the Nazirites to drink wine, and you command the prophets, saying, do not prophesy. Huh. The Nazir or Nazir in the Hebrew Bible is translated as he who vowed or he who was made holy. Wow. You know what also is kind of wild that nobody talks about? The word Ashkenazi, Ashkenazi, that describes European Jews. Why do European Jews include the word Nazi in Ashkenazi? And now we have Nazirs or Nazirs and Nazi rights in the Bible. Is this all coincidental? That's my question here. Is it all coincidental? Well, the Nazi rite is also mentioned in the Torah Hebrew Bible, as well as the Talmud. So it's in both. Wow. Wow. This is crazy. I mean, I can't believe Michael Knowles is just being this bad faith and deceitful about what the Bible actually says. But I wanted to get into the Bible verses regarding the women of Zion. We have 1 Kings 21:25. No one else so completely sold himself to what was evil in the Lord's sight as Ahab did under the influence of his wife Jezebel. So the influence of a wife is warned against in 1 Kings 21:25. Okay, now check this out. Isaiah 3:16 to 3:18. The Lord says, "Beautiful Zion is haughty, craning her elegant neck, flirting with her eyes, walking with dainty steps, tinkling her ankle bracelets. So the Lord will send scabs on her head. The Lord will make beautiful Zion bald. On that day of judgment, the Lord will strip away everything that makes her beautiful: ornaments, headbands, crescent necklaces." Jeremiah 3:20 also says, "You have been unfaithful to me, you people of Israel. You have been like a faithless wife who leaves her husband. I, the Lord, have spoken." Wow, the Lord's words, they're taking offense to the people of Israel being as bad as a faithless wife who leaves her husband. Wow. So he chose that. That was what... I still haven't found the passage. I haven't found the passage that someone brought up on the previous episode. Actually, let's see. Is whoever in here the guy who brought that up? Groupthink Skeptic, was it you? Did you bring up the Bible passage warning about women or warning about bad women? Does anybody know what passage it was talking? Somebody brought up. There's Proverbs 6:24, "To keep thee from the evil woman, from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman." Hmm. Proverbs 14:125, "A wise woman builds her home, but a foolish woman tears it down with her own hands." Is that kind of a warning against single mothers who divorced their husbands and made life difficult for their children? I don't know. Maybe it was Proverbs 5:3-4 that I read earlier. "For the lips of an immoral woman are as sweet as honey, her mouth is smoother than oil, but in the end she is as bitter as poison, as dangerous as a double-edged sword." Maybe it was that one. Is that the citation, Heracles? It might have been that one. Oh, Dave Scott says Timothy 6:1. Well, I don't know if it was 6-1, but Timothy does sound familiar. Hmm. Hmm. Timothy 2:11-12, a woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man. She must be silent. I mean, if we're talking religion, I mean, that would disqualify many women from being godly, but it wasn't that one. There's Timothy 2:9. In like manner, women should adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broided hair or gold or pearls or costly array. You mean like Chanel bags? So no dramatic behavior. Wow, that would disqualify quite a few. Quite a few. It wasn't that one, though. Perhaps it was the double-edged sword one. Oh, wait a second. I think it might have been the double-edged sword one that I read earlier. Is this stream gonna get shut down for discussing what the Bible says? I'm not claiming the Bible's true. I'm just pointing out Michael Knowles' goofery and pure deception here. Joyce B said Ezekiel 43:7. And he said unto me, son of... Wait, are you sure? 43:7? Ezekiel 43:7 is, and he said unto me, son of man, this is the place of my throne and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever. No more shall the house of Israel defile my holy name, they nor their kings, by their harlotry, or with the carcasses of their kings in their high places. Wait, what? That's interesting. There's also Jeremiah 3:17 in the same vein. At the time, Jerusalem will be called the throne of the Lord, and all nations will be gathered in Jerusalem to honor the name of the Lord. They will no longer follow the stubbornness of their evil hearts. Ezekiel 6:5, I will lay the corpses of the Israelites before their idols and scatter your bones around your altars. That's dark. I didn't think we'd be spending this much time on the Bible, but it's Michael Knowles who claims to follow it when he clearly doesn't. Galatians 5:17, for the flesh desires what is contrary to the spirit is what is contrary to the flesh. I think it was the double-edged sword one. I don't feel like going through it. Actually, you know what? I could have already gone through it by the amount of time. You know what? Let me go find it, because otherwise it's going to take forever. I'm just curious as to what it was now. I think it might have been a double-edged sword one. It was closer to the end of it, so I'll just scan it real quick. Talk amongst yourselves, chat. One thing's for certain, Michael Knowles' gophery will not be forgotten. This blasphemer. Well, it's not showing up in part 3. Maybe it was part 2 then. Huh, let's see if it was part 2. Or is the chat getting censored after the fact? Oh, wow. I think they're actually... Is YouTube actually deleting? Wow. This is crazy. So, I'm going back in the chat, and YouTube appears to have deleted not all the comments, but a lot of comments in the chat. This is crazy. It only left like 15 comments, 20 comments. This is weird. Wow, that's messed up, YouTube. Huh. I'm pretty sure it was not part 1, but unless it was part 1. But it still appears like there's a lot missing from the chat replay. It's only showing a couple of comments. Yeah, this is messed up. I wonder if this happens on other streams too, on other channels where they just don't show most of the chat. I mean, this is so terrible. It barely showed any of the comments in the chat. Wow. Yeah, this is terrible. Oh, here we go. Wait, what? No, it's showing up different comments, different times. I'm not gonna let the whole thing play through. Oh, here we go. I found it. There was no... It was Shimka Smile who posted it. And it was Ecclesiastes 7:26. Yeah, this was it. Wow, this one's dark. And And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands. Whoso pleaseth God shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. More bitter than death. Wow. I mean, that's dark. More bitter than death. So I hope they shove this all down Michael Knowles' throat here. This deceitful scumbag.
The Lord says in the Gospel of St. Matthew, what man has joined, let no man separate.
Right, right.
What man has joined, let no man separate. All right, let's see the context here. So it refers to marriage. It does not refer to what percentage of women are marriageable. Wow. I mean, this guy is pure deceitful scum. I mean, wow. I hope they ram all these other passages down his throat. This diversion fallacy master. I mean, this guy claims to be a Catholic. I mean, he's utterly clueless about the Bible.
But when one out
And he
of
describes it
when
as
when
the
a
right
quarter of women are getting abortions, it's the women that aren't going along with this.
But what is your point? You're
Again,
saying you're citing the Bible to say people ought not to get married, but I'm
no, I'm
saying-
not.
No, that's not what she was doing at all. She was saying how rare it was to find a good woman, which the Bible warns specifically of. Because this goof was saying that all of these sinner women who are specifically warned against in the Bible, he was saying it doesn't disqualify them from marriage. I mean, this is crazy. And now he's strawmanning and pretending she was saying the Bible warns about marriage. Obviously, that's not what she was saying at all. I mean, a small child can understand the basic English here.
I'm not
doesn't
saying
say
not
that.
to get married. I'm saying it's incredibly difficult for a man to find a woman worthy of being a wife in the current climate.
What do you think virtue is?
Wow, talk about non sequitur. Oh man. Oh man. Wow. Wow. Now, that question of virtue, I mean, is he proving her point further while being contrarian and stacking his... this is just so bizarre. Like, he's being contrarian to his own contrarian. I mean, wow. Wow. Groupthink Skeptic says, Jesus knew the prostitutes and tax collectors were better people than the scribes and Pharisees. That's why they hated him. Well, I mean, sure, but that doesn't mean that the prostitutes were marriageable in general. And obviously not all prostitutes are equal. They're let's not do the false dichotomies. But yeah, Flatman B, I'm probably gonna have to retroactively add it because I did not think Knowles would humiliate himself like this. But now that we're making our way through this, I'm going to have to add it afterwards. Just because I think he might actually be approaching Craig and Sartain territory. I'm not sure, but he might be. I mean, he's been spamming nothing but fallacy.
What do I think? You brought up the terms.
No, you brought it up. You're the one who said you said.
No, I don't use that word, virtue.
You just mentioned.
Oh,
you
fine,
brought
fine,
up the line of
well,
Proverbs
Glenn,
that says a virtuous woman.
Glenn brought up but yeah.
And then you brought up Glenn. So what? So I mean, I just think there's.
I mean, look at his diversions and dodge. Who brought up what? The point is the rarity of a good woman that he's dodging and sputtering over.
A misunderstanding here because
Yeah.
And he's claiming she's the one misunderstanding that a good woman is hard to find. Wow. Wow, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. The level of deceit here. I mean, I don't think... How is anybody going to stomach Knowles after this interview? I don't think there's any coming back from this. I really don't.
virtue is not something that's static.
Mhm.
Virtue is a habit. So you
Which Sure, another diversion fallacy. It has nothing to do, you know, a good woman is hard to find. So a good woman might have formerly been a bad woman, now she's a good woman. But that doesn't change the fact that she's incredibly hard to find. I mean, just the level of goofery here. It's not that people, and Pearl has already gone over all of this. Most people don't change, a small percentage can. So if a redeemed woman, per se, who led an immoral life, and she would have made a horrible wife previously and wasn't marriageable, let's say now she's marriageable. That doesn't change the fact that she's in the absolute minority relative to common sense and what the Bible says. So again, this guy's just a master of deceptive diversion fallacies.
You cultivate virtues and you cultivate vices and their habits. It's like drugs, that would be a vicious habit.
But shouldn't men marry women with good habits and good virtue?
But
and here comes the stuttering and the sputtering. I mean, she's absolutely cooking this goof. And he knows it too. Look at his face. He's laughing. He just got cooked. He just got absolutely cooked. And he starts sputtering and stuttering again. I mean, this image on the screen right now, I mean, it perfectly illustrates Michael Knowles in this debate here. Groupthink Skeptic says, those prostitutes that genuinely ask God for forgiveness are marriageable. They didn't happen all too much because life changes would be immediately visible. The light of Christ shines brightly. I mean, we're talking total numbers. We're not talking about, the fact that people can change if they really want to, but obviously that's a very small percentage of people. I mean, Pearl just decimated and eviscerated this goof. Sarah Catherine, if you just got here, you just missed a doozy. You just missed a doozy. Pearl is absolutely wrecking this fool. Joyce B says, God commanded Hosea to marry the prostitute Gomer and to go after her every time she strayed and was unfaithful. Well, also, I mean, there's a lot of stories in the Bible that are very specific to those people. Like, for example, be fruitful and multiply. Those were specific instructions to Adam and Eve and Noah's sons. So there are specific instructions referenced in the Bible for a particular person or persons. That's not a prescription for all humanity. The book of Hosea is actually an interesting book. I mean, so God knew that Gomer would be unfaithful to him. I'm a little hazy on the story. There was obviously some greater plan, and obviously God wanted Hosea to learn something. But Hosea is, of course, famous for the Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So again, lack of knowledge, lack of following godly teachings, etc. So, yeah. But look at Knowles, like, he knows he's decimated here. Look at his face. His face betrays him. He knows he got absolutely slaughtered by Pearl here. I mean, she's taken him to task for his goofery. So she pointed out, again, all these Bible verses saying how rare good women are and warning against bad women out there. And he tried to reframe by asking her what virtue is, which proves her points further. Then he tried to divert by saying that virtue is a habit, and then she's saying, well, why would men want to marry women with bad habits who aren't virtuous? And look at his expression. He started stuttering and sputtering because he knows he just got absolutely eviscerated. Let's see how he tries to sputter out of his goofery here. I mean, that's like an embarrassed smile right there. He's getting thrashed like a redheaded stepchild this entire interview,
The way a habit works is it's not static in time.
which has nothing to do with what she just said. By this argument, should people just hire, career criminals? Because their behavior is not static in time. Who cares if they killed all these other people and robbed all their former employers? You should still hire them because behavior's not static. This is the argument that Knowles is putting forward. Can you imagine the level of goofery here? Again, he's not necessarily wrong that a career criminal can't reform, but why would you expect them to? Because behavior's not static? That's why you should hire someone who murdered or stole from every single employer they ever had prior to stumbling upon you? Can you imagine the level of gophery here? How is he even... I would say, how can he argue this with a straight face? But he didn't have a straight face. He was laughing at the start. He did not have a straight face while mounting this argument.
Right. It is something that continues and
Right,
changes.
but with
can reverse.
But with how...
It could reverse. That's his argument. It could reverse. Like, why didn't he... Or maybe he did marry a prostitute. Why didn't he marry a sex worker? Because, it could reverse, right? Her behavior can... Why didn't he marry a serial killer sex worker? Because, behavior's not static. It could reverse. Why didn't he marry one? Maybe he did. But if he didn't, why didn't he if behavior's not static? Can you imagine the level of cope here? I still can't imagine how he even posted this on the internet. Again, if it's an Illuminati humiliation ritual, then that was his assignment and he had to do it.
How unfair the laws are to men. Again, don't you think men should be extremely selective? I question if
I'm not saying that men ought to throw a stick out the window and marry the first woman it hits.
you said an ex-OnlyFans model. That's basically the equivalent.
I said that. No, I don't think so. Basically,
come on, an ex-only. That's like the. I can't think of anyone.
I don't think anyone's
I can't think of
beyond
anyone worse for my. I don't know how you can't definitively say no to that.
Well,
if
because
I had a man,
because
someone that I loved, and he.
Because the goof's got nothing. He's got nothing.
He was looking for a wife, like my brother. And he said, well, I found this girl in church that used to do OnlyFans. I'd say, oh, please, no, anyone else.
Yeah, I guess.
Hey now, you are free to create. Don't start blaspheming against the Bible. What I was talking about earlier is how accurate the Bible exposes the psychology of men, women, corrupt authorities. It's so accurate in exposing the psychology of humanity. Joyce B. says, some Bible teachers say Hosea is a model of Israel's unfaithfulness and idolatry over and against God's faithfulness. It portrays God, the only true covenant keeper, and all mankind are covenant breakers. Groupthink Skeptic says Knowles is forgetting about the scorpion on the frog's back. He's just trying to justify marrying the first slut to give him a little JK. Are you really joking, though? Are you really joking? How do I know you're joking? How does anybody know you're joking? How does anybody know that that's not what happened to Knowles? He spent college doing these movies where he was in bed with men and cross-dressing, so who knows?
Please, God, you wouldn't want your son. You have sons, right?
I do.
You wouldn't want them to date an ex-OnlyFans model.
Yeah,
you would want them to be really selective, especially
Sure.
with what's going up.
So he said, sure, but that's for his sons and not all the other men, including his friends that he was laughing about that got ruined in divorce court and can't see their children. Just think about the level of scum Michael Knowles is. He couldn't hide it. The Freudian slips. And then just the laughs. He hates women, too. He was laughing about how men take advantage of women. This guy hates men and women.
Against
I guess the point I'm making is
Yeah.
that no one is beyond redemption.
Who's arguing that no one is beyond redemption? The question is, would you marry somebody that isn't redeemed yet? Or someone who's still engaging? So is a drug addict shooting up every day? And I'm not saying that it's their fault either. You need to check out my podcast on drug use, because I think there's far too much blame on the user you know, given certain circumstances. But it's bottom line. Like, if you're looking to build a family and have children, you're not going to marry a current, you know, somebody who's shooting up on the street and murdering people currently. I mean, if they reform, maybe they will qualify. But in their current behavior, they are not marriageable, and Knowles can't even say that. I mean, that's how much of a deceptive scum this guy is. Yeah, Joyce, check out the previous episode on this. Check out part 3. I didn't know it either. Someone mentioned it in the comments. Knowles apparently was a Catholic growing up. Then he fell away from the faith, and then he came back to it in college in Yale. He didn't give a straight answer whether or not he was in Skull and Bones. And people said by his own words, he became Catholic again in college at Yale. And he did this one movie at Yale. We don't know if it was before or after Catholicism, where he played some kind of homosexual character and he was in bed with a man in the movie. Now, he cross-dressed at parties also, so that may have possibly been before. I mean, if he found Catholicism his last day at Yale or his last months at Yale, then he wouldn't have done that after, but he moved on to Hollywood, where he continued playing degenerate characters. I went over it in part 3. There's a photo I put on the screen of a guy who kind of sort of looks like Michael Knowles licking someone's ear in a Skull and Bones photograph from the 2000. I forgot the exact year.
And it seems to me you're saying people are beyond redemption.
No, I'm saying that men don't have to forgive your sin, and actions have consequences. And when we tell women,
But no one's denying it'll be harder for an ex.
I mean, it's kind of crazy how Knowles doesn't even understand. Like, it's like he doesn't understand the first thing about the Bible. It's not up to people to judge. God judge. I mean, people can judge actions, but not souls. Only God can judge. So it's not up to another human to judge a soul. And I mean, it's like he missed even the rudimentary children's points about the Bible. It's weird. Again, I'm not claiming the Bible is true or that Christianity is the one true religion. I'm not a Christian, actually. I don't belong to any religion, definitely not the religious cult of statism. But it's just weird how Knowles, it's like he doesn't even have a rudimentary understanding of the Bible.
OnlyFans person to get married. No one's denying that.
Pretty much impossible, I would say.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
I know.
Now, earlier he said it was just it wouldn't even prevent you from. He said it earlier, unless I'm mistaken. I mean, come on, who's paying attention in here, Heracles? Pearl brought up a current OnlyFans model for dating. Does it disqualify them from dating? And Michael Knowles says no. He said it was an obstacle, but not a disqualification. Now he's saying it's very different. I mean, this guy is so inconsistent, hypocritical, and just outright deceptive. Doing the devil's work here is Michael Knowles.
I know ex-pornographers who have gotten married. But
Yeah.
Anecdotal fallacy again. He knows ex-pornographers who got married. Okay, well, what percentage of people involved in the industry end up getting married? And are they going to end up divorced? Is it a happy marriage? Is it an ideal marriage? He left out all the information, which obviously he doesn't know. And maybe it is. People do win the lottery. Does that mean there should be a prescription for the average man to quit his job and only play the lottery and rely on winning it just because you can point to some people that have won? I mean, this is the level of goofery Knowles is promoting.
Well.
So it's not impossible, but it's harder.
It's not impossible to win the lottery. Or like the casino example that I brought up before. Everybody should just go play because there are some winners. There are some winners, so everyone should just go risk it.
It adds a lot of challenges.
Right, but
I recommend people not, do bad things.
Yeah, correct. But what we often, and I saw this, even in the chastity speakers. I'm sure you know him actually. That Jason and Christiana Everett.
I don't.
Really?
I don't.
It's like the #1 chastity. Whenever you would have.
I don't go to a lot of chastity events. I'm already married. I'm not. I'm chaste. I'm
Yeah.
not celibate.
Well, they would have them like come to our high school, and whatever sin the woman always did, it was always blamed upon the man. Always. Like, it's always if she
In the sense
slept
that
around, if
yeah.
she slept around, it wasn't because she wanted to, it was because she was being used.
Hmm.
Do you see the difference?
Well, there is a distinction here, which is that women are the weaker sex, so men bear greater responsibility. Eve eats the apple, but all man sins in Adam.
But
What? Holy diversion fallacy, Batman. He's upping the ante on his diversion fallacies. Wow. 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 The Bible says women can be easier to deceive in general. That doesn't mean that women don't deceive men, which there are countless Bible verses that I just went over on that, which Knowles conveniently hallucinates don't exist. Isn't that convenient? In his misrepresentations and out of context quotes. I mean, this is just crazy. I mean, it's, again, the level of deception here. If we are to believe Knowles is honest, he's completely clueless about the Bible.
how is a man responsible for women doing OnlyFans? That's a choice.
Because
And
well,
that's what I think we should.
because well, men are the consumers in the case of OnlyFans, right?
Yeah, but
So they do bear some responsibility.
well, I mean, even they have to post it before there's any consumers.
No, the reason they post is because there's a market.
Not really. You know what the average.
What? So he's never heard of Instagram? First of all, the majority of so-called models or wannabe models with their thirst photos or whatever they call it. I mean, Instagram is kind of a cesspool. I mean, it's basically like a softcore platform. Like, literally, just scrolling through Insta. Like, I don't even have an Instagram unless I made an account and forgot about it. But just scrolling through it, like, you could try to be looking up specific topics, and there'll always be some kind of bikini models being injected into feeds. It's crazy. And they don't make money off of that. I mean, obviously a select few do, but the majority don't. So the level of goofery here, it's like Michael Knowles he's never even heard of Instagram. And what happened, even when Facebook started, like, they were always, a certain percentage of women, I'm not going to say what percent, they were always posting risque photos. They don't make any money off of it. Like, they're not getting anything out of it. It's attention seeking to a degree, nothing to do with markets. Just the level of goofery on display here. It's just crazy. Or just like, the wardrobe choices going to nightclubs. I mean, go to any major city. I mean, actually, it's getting kind of crazy, actually. It's getting kind of crazy. Like, even going out during the day or just going to the beach. Like, modesty's kind of a thing of the past in first world countries. It's getting kind of crazy because I remember in my youth, regardless of the year, this kind of risque dressing or whatever, it was kind of reserved to nighttime. Now, I mean, think about it. Like, let's compare post-2012 to the 80s and 90s. Now, in the 80s and 90s, you would see, crazy revealing outfits at nightclubs at night or walking the street at night. You wouldn't see it in the middle of the day. Now, I mean, literally go to Walmart. It looks like nightclub time in the 80s and 90s. Has anybody else noticed that? That can't just be me. So Michael Knowles apparently ignoring all of this. I mean, man, this guy is such a charlatan snake doing the devil's work here.
We're getting back to the chicken and the egg.
No,
of
do you know what the average OnlyFans model makes? It is
Nothing,
not about
But
money.
they're duped. But why do they get on?
Attention. They want attention.
Michael Knowles is going to explain female psychology to Pearl. I mean, I like how she's just cutting him off and decimating him. He gets cut off at the knees like every time he opens his mouth, but it's like he has a glutton for punishment. It's like he's the non-good faith version of Craig of Fight the Flat Earth. Although some people think that Craig is an actor and he's also faking all that. Who knows? But, I mean, clearly Michael Knowles is bad faith, though. And it's like he just has this glutton for humiliation. I guess it's all part of the ritual. I don't know.
But
there's
why do
there's women on podcasts, and you see them. They say they'll do it for free. They want attention.
Right, but
Women will, I think you were on a show, right?
on whatever.
Yeah, didn't that girl say that she would do it even without the money? Or
Maybe.
even if
some
we
of
go,
some of what they say gets a little
Michael,
blurry.
let's go outside. Let's walk.
Yeah.
So I went to Vegas.
Yeah.
The women are walking around with the stickers on their boobs. No man made them do that.
The little pasties?
Yeah.
Yeah, but right. But why are they doing it? You're saying, again, I'm not,
I'm saying they like the attention. They know it'll attract attention.
right. So I'm not saying that women aren't culpable when they do bad things. But what I'm saying is that men,
Has anybody ever seen him stutter this much? He's usually so well spoken. I mean, he's getting decimated every point here. I mean, this is crazy.
share some of this culpability because they're the ones consuming it.
No, I think everyone's responsible for their own choices. And I think that includes women. And the more we coddle women and
Right.
say, oh, you poor thing, it was the men. Oh, you were lied to by feminism. Oh,
the-
everything's everyone else's fault. That's why you have these women at 35 that act like entitled brats.
Whoa. I mean, look, I want to know what Knowles is going to respond to that. Let me guess. He's going to spout a diversion fallacy. He's not going to address any single thing she just said. I mean, when God gave man free will, man was referred to as mankind, all humans. All humans have free will. Again, Knowles really needs to get, if he's, again, in the off chance that he's simply mentally disabled, I don't believe he is. I don't think he is. In the off chance, he does need to get a Bible tutor ASAP.
No, but
You know,
but I
No, but. That's his response. No, but. I mean, this goof is spiraling and stuttering like a fool. I mean, even if this was an Illuminati humiliation ritual, I mean, I can't believe, like, how could anyone post this? I can't believe, how could anyone post this? His response is no, but, because his goal was to interrupt her there. Did everybody see that? He wanted to interrupt her decimating him. Like, he doesn't actually have any real rebuttal. He just wanted to say some words to interrupt her destruction of him.
guess this is why I'm suggesting
Yes, this is.
yeah.
that like the view I'm articulating.
That, like, again, has anybody seen Michael Knowles sputter like this in any other debate, discussion, appearance of any kind? I mean, I can't believe Pearl is the one to take down Michael Knowles. I've actually never seen Michael Knowles get obliterated or taken down like this. Pearl Davis is the one to take down Michael Knowles.
You might get a husband after OnlyFans.
No, no one's suggesting that that would be
Yeah.
particularly easy.
Notice how he always reframes everything as if she was saying it was particularly easy. I mean, the sheer bad faith strawmanning and blatant lying is off the charts here. Yeah, Heracles says I have to score it. Yeah, I'm going to. Again, the reason I didn't is because I thought this would be a generic discussion without really a lot of fallacies from other side. I thought it would be more of a discussion than a debate.
But I guess the reason I'm
But I guess, like, he's just stuttering like a fool. This is crazy. This is crazy. Oh, shout out to Jesse Lee Peterson. Jesse Lee Peterson is awesome. Okay, Groupthink Skeptic, you gave me an idea. I have to do a soundbite of Jesse Lee Peterson saying beta.
I'm suggesting what would be probably the conservative or traditional or Christian view
Right.
of marriage and the sexes. And the reason that I'm describing yours
Wait, the conservative Christian view of marriage and the sexes is that there's a parity between marriageable women and men, and that it's easy to find a wife? What? How is that? That is not the conservative or traditional view, is not to go out there and date and marry sex workers. I don't believe, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I got my definition of conservatism and traditionalism wrong. I mean, maybe it's me. Like, what is Noel's actual argument here? It's like he just wanted to argue with her for the sake of arguing with her. And, of course, humiliation ritual. Doing the devil's work here, Michael Knowles.
and I
Yeah.
take it the red pill's view of marriage and the sexes as being liberal and individualist and feminist.
What? So it's kind of the opposite. I mean, if anything, okay, so obviously he did a hasty generalization and false dichotomy fallacy on the red pill. That people are always roping in the black pill with the red pill, which is, I mean, that's one of the major issues in all of this. But if anything, isn't the red pill advocating more conservatism and traditionalism in selecting a wife? They don't want the wife to be promiscuous or feminist. Like, Michael, again, I don't know what to make of Michael Knowles here. I mean, just the pure, unadulterated goofery spewing from his mouth is insane.
Is because of, well, what you just said. You said everyone is totally responsible for their own choices, and that
Do you think people aren't responsible for their?
Joyce B says, I'm leaning towards humiliation ritual. Perhaps he is compromised in a way that makes him blackmailable. It seems to be, just judging from his activities in college, is particularly if he was Skull and Bones. You know, they pretty much have everything on all the Skull and Bones people.
Own choices?
I think that our wills are conditioned by our environments and our education and public life, because we're a social creature who lives in community with others.
So how do you explain people making completely different choices?
Wow. I mean, there's the decimate. Pearl is on a roll here. I mean, the decimation here is just astounding. Like, every point, she's completely demolishing him, and all he can do is sputter, stutter, and divert, and it's just ad nauseum. We're just going through the same cycle. Every point that's brought up.
In the exact, I know siblings. I know siblings where one ends up doing
Yeah.
one. I mean, come on, you know,
Right.
with like you have a couple kids, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, they're different.
2.5, I suppose. So one on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you.
You know, people are different and they make different choices.
So are you saying people aren't conditioned in their will by their environments? That's what an extreme liberal would say, and maybe that's what you believe, but I don't believe.
No, I think
I mean, it's, again, diversion fallacies and black and white fallacies. That's all this goof has. And Pearl's called him out on it here and there, but not as much as she should have. But I think I'm actually more interested in watching her debate again, because I think she might have learned a lot from this, especially if she watched it back.
I don't really know what that means, but
Meaning, are we affected if you grow up in a really bad community where you're taught all sorts?
Look at his face. Like, what is wrong with this guy? It's like the devil is revealing himself through the instrument of Michael Knowles.
of bad things where you're introduced to drugs
What is wrong with this guy?
and porn and
It's almost like he's getting joy from talking about these evil things. Like, he couldn't hide his laughter when Pearl brought up men that got destroyed in divorce court and can't see their children, even though he specifically said he had friends or good friends that went through that while he was laughing. And then when he was talking about women getting used by men, he couldn't stop laughing. And now it's like he can't hide, mentioning all these evil things. And it's like he's laughing through the snarl, like he's trying to cover it up, but he can't quite do it.
gluttony and just all this nasty.
Gluttony and nasty stuff. Look how happy he is. Like, he can't hide his smirk talking about nastiness and gluttony and all these evil things. I mean, man, this is very telling in his micro expressions.
Stuff
Yeah.
around. Are you more likely to fall into bad vices and habits and temptations?
you're
later?
more likely, but you're still responsible for your decisions. You are 100% responsible for the choices that you make.
I mean, again, this is just a master class in diversion fallacy. Cherry picking, non sequiturs. Like, is a serial killer more likely to become one if they had a bad childhood? Maybe, but clearly there are still people that had good childhood and loving parents that turn. So, again, all these arguments are neither here nor there arguments while dodging all of Pearl's actual points.
Sure.
If a man chooses, there are men that grow up in bad environments that choose to be millionaires, and there's others that choose to be drug dealers.
And there's some who choose to be millionaires and fail. So there's an
Another non sequitur, because that's not related to her point. But even if they fail at being millionaires, that doesn't mean they're drug dealers. They took a good path and they're law abiding citizens. Maybe they failed at their dream of being a millionaire, but maybe they're still well off. Or maybe they're in poverty but didn't turn to the life of crime like the people they grew up with. Again, just this master class in diversion and non sequitur fallacy from Michael Knowles.
What you seem to be describing is a real primacy of the will, of the
Mhm.
individual will. And I'm saying that free will obviously exists,
Mhm.
but it's conditioned by other factors. Why is
Okay.
it that marriage is collapsing? Is
do
it because
you-
everyone just of their own free will, just totally absent environmental concerns,
Because women
just
want
decided
to.
one day
Because
not to
women.
Another false dichotomy and red herring fallacy. I mean, wow. I will retroactively use the logical analysis system because Michael Knowles has earned it. I think he's going to be in competition with the top dogs.
Mary?
Want to leave because when women got the choice to get money instead of have a father in the home,
Right.
women have chosen to take the
So
money.
I think you've just proven my point, though. Even if what
Right.
you just said is true, you're
Mhm.
saying that a political and social condition changed.
So because of that, everyone should just marry serial killer drug addicts because it was all the fault of society. So they're still marriageable, according to Michael Knowles. Like, notice how he's never actually staying on the real topic.
The way that human beings, that
changed the-
women
No,
exercise their free will.
It changed the incentives, but that didn't mean women had to take it.
But
And
it changed the
it's
way they
not,
exercised
it's
their
not, but it's not the government's fault. It's women.
And again, there's still a percentage of women who weren't duped, who made good choices. And it's just what Knowles keeps dodging is that percentage is a lot smaller than he's pretending and hallucinating. And for whatever reason, he's too utterly clueless.
Women's fault for making that choice.
Right.
It's not society's fault. It's women's fault. It's the person's fault for making. Everybody is.
Well, it's technically both, but it's, again, this is neither here nor there. Because someone who's murdering children while shooting up drugs is not marriageable material at that moment. Possibly ever. Possibly ever. I don't know why that's controversial. I don't know why Knowles has to say behavior isn't static. Like, he can't admit that that's not someone who's shooting up drugs and murdering children is not currently marriageable. Knowles, like, can't muster. I mean, again, he's doing the devil's work here.
Responsible for their
But
own
but
sin.
had the social condition and the law not changed, women would not have made those choices. In
Well,
nearly
you
those-
Well, again, even if the percentage skew was different, you still have women today who chose not to fall for the propaganda. Those are the ones who are marriageable. I mean, is this really that controversial? Do we really need a 2-hour discussion of Knowles humiliating himself here? I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy.
You would be surprised, actually.
I thought
There's
that's what
been-
you just said. I thought you
there's-
just said that the reason.
No, the majority.
Yeah,
No, I
okay.
didn't say the reason. I said it was because women
started
wanted
then.
to. No, I said it was because women
Wow, he can't stop interrupting with the straw mans. I mean, this is crazy.
wanted to.
Women wanted to.
Women have
And it
chosen.
just coincidentally, they all of a sudden
Women-
decided they wanted to when the law changed.
Women chose. Well, they wanted to before that. I mean, they fought
they
for
didn't do it.
50 years for abortion. So I'm saying when people, okay, we could go back and forth about what I want to do, what you want to do. All I look is at what people do.
No, I'm not.
So
I'm not talking about.
I would have just forced him to answer. Is a woman who is currently a child serial killer and shooting up heroin, is she currently marriageable? And see what he says. Because according to him, behavior is not static. So she can change. It's possible. It's theoretically possible. And I agree that it's theoretically possible. But that doesn't change the subject of this entire debate.
Your individual desires at all. I'm talking about desire itself and the relation of desire to. You seem to be saying that people exercise their free will in something like a vacuum, and therefore they bear all of the.
She didn't say that at all. She was just pointing out how hard it is for a man to find a good wife. I mean, this is crazy. The level of cope that Knowles has generated could probably power the entire world for months just from this single interview.
Moral responsibility, and I'm saying that we're a social creature, and there's more to it than that.
do you? I'm just confused. Do you think you're responsible for the choices you make?
I think I am a moral agent and I bear moral responsibility, and that my ability to exercise my will is conditioned by my environment.
Which has absolutely nothing to do with the topic here. What percentage of women are marriageable?
By
Okay,
the
so you
laws
think
and the
the
customs
you
and
think
the
the
community.
environment's responsible for the choices you make?
No, that's not what I said. I said I'm a moral agent and I'm responsible for my
Okay, so you are
actions.
responsible.
Does any of this change the current percentage of marriageable women?
But my free will, my ability to exercise my will, is conditioned by the laws and the customs and the community in which I live, which is why it's not merely an individual question, but it's also a political question for
Okay.
human beings who are the political animal.
Well,
I would also ask him, what about the conservative traditional women or even non-religious women who didn't fall for the feminist propaganda and they are good, honorable women and marriageable? You know, they were able to resist the dupe. So clearly they're good and marriageable and you know, there might not be a lot of them, but you know, clearly they are currently marriageable based on their current behavior, static or not. Their current and previous behavior rendered them marriageable. What about them, and what is the percentage versus those that are not? Yeah, Lord Zed, that's a good point. Lord Zed says, I'd say Pearl is thinking too locally. There are women from other cultures overseas who are marriageable in higher numbers than here. So I would say that, yes, Joyce B also has a good point. A lot of these good women are also surrounded by scummy men, and they are still single because they have the wherewithal not to settle with a scumbag. So, yeah, but the number, it all goes back to the numbers, and Pearl should have brought that up, and just ask Michael Knowles the basic question. Who is more marriageable? A woman, whether locally or not, who didn't fall for the scam of feminism, who's not a druggie, who's not a promiscuous druggie, who is more marriageable in that situation, and why would the man choose the less marriageable woman if his goal is to have a solid family? Religious or not, but if that's the goal. Like, Knowles is just being contrarian and an utter goof here for seemingly no reason.
that just sounds like a lot of words to me.
It is a lot of words.
That
I try to be as
that's
pithy as I
making
can.
that's making it a bit more complicated than it needs to be from my point of view.
Yeah, I think it's just describing reality.
And no,
Wow. Knowles thought he just described reality. Pearl's been the one describing reality. I mean, even he thinks that's hilarious. Because I think he knows that was just a projection there, because Pearl is the one describing reality. I mean, Knowles looks like a complete clown here. I mean, he's just got this devil's smirk for most of this interview.
I think
But it's not liberal. It's not
I think reality is that you are responsible for the decisions you make. I think that's the best,
Should Knowles be like an attorney for serial killers? It was totally their upbringing. It was society that caused this school shooter. I mean, not that that's untrue. Obviously, society had influence, but that doesn't change the reality that this particular individual became a school shooter or mass shooter, and other people with the same influence from society didn't choose to do that. Man, the goofery here is just off the charts.
One thing I'm really grateful for, in my
How does one make a decision? I guess.
Wow. Wow. He goes to how does one make a decision? This is what we've come to. This is as dumb as when he said the laws can't be changed because we exist in time and space. Do you guys remember that? It was either part 1 or part 2. Pearl is talking about the laws of family court and all of this, and why can't that be changed? And Michael Knowles responded it because we exist in time and space. So apparently no laws about anything can ever be changed because we exist in time and space. That was his response. Now his question is, how do we make decisions? Wow. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to have to call it here. Wow. I need a break from Michael Knowles. I apologize. There's only so much goofery I can handle. I need more recovery time before finishing this interview. I hope you guys understand. I mean, I'm just a mere mortal. There's only a certain amount of deceptive goofery I can handle per dose, and Michael Knowles has filled my quota for the day. So, it probably will take 4 more hours, Dave Scott, but not today. Not today. I need a break from this guy. I mean, this guy's an absolute goof snake. Like, I don't think he will ever recover from this interview. Just pure deception across the board. So hope you guys enjoyed another edition of the MindShock podcast. This logical analysis was hopefully enlightening and entertaining regarding psychology. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. You can become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.